Okay, let's dive right into this chilling explainer. Today we're exploring one of literature's absolute most enduring and, frankly, terrifying stories, Edgar Allan Poe's classic tale, The Masque of the Red Death. Now, you might think this is just a spooky story about a plague, but it's actually a masterful examination of a deeply human flaw, the dangerous illusion of control. We're going to unpack exactly how these characters try to cheat fate and why those attempts go so horribly wrong.
The external world could take care of itself. Man, think about that for a second. It's a completely chilling quote because it captures the sheer arrogance of thinking wealth or status can shield us from nature. This is the exact mindset of our main character, Prince Prospero. He's a ruler who genuinely believes that literal physical walls can keep out the inevitable. He looks out at a world suffering in agony and basically decides, hey, with enough money and enough stone, this simply isn't my problem. It really sets the stage for the catastrophic delusion that drives this entire narrative.
Section 1. The Bloody Plague, the Unstoppable Avatar.
To truly understand the prince's extreme reaction, we have to look at the devastating threat ravaging the country outside, in grim, clinical detail. The text actually tells us that blood was its avatar. So the victims of this Red Death, they didn't just fade away peacefully in their sleep. No way. They experienced sharp pains, sudden and overwhelming dizziness, and then, this is the worst part, a horrifying, profuse bleeding directly from the pores. These scarlet stains upon the body were the ultimate pest ban. It was a mark that instantly shut the sufferer out from all aid and human sympathy. The sheer gruesome nature of it was specifically designed to terrify.
And to put that into perspective, this illustrates the truly terrifying stakes. This wasn't some lingering illness, right? From the very first sharp pain at 0 minutes to the visible scarlet stains at 15 to complete termination, which, yes, means death, took just half an hour. The entire progress of the plague was the incident of 30 minutes. It is swift, it's brutal, and it's entirely merciless.
Section 2. Prospero's Walled Illusion, Escaping the Inevitable.
So, with half his dominion dead in mere minutes, how does our incredibly wealthy prince react? Well, he creates this stark, almost offensive contrast. While the grim reality of a bleeding world completely succumbs to this horrific plague outside, Prospero summons 1,000 light-hearted friends from his court and locks them all inside a deeply fortified, castellated abbey. A strong and lofty wall literally girdles them in. It's the ultimate gated community, right? Built to keep out death itself. It's this neon-colored revelry of a secluded elite directly juxtaposed against the suffering masses.
This quote is just staggering to me. They actually weld the bolts of their iron gates shut and decide it was folly to breathe or to think. Talk about deliberate ignorance. They throw themselves entirely into distraction so they don't have to face the absolute nightmare just outside their doors. Prospero treats this existential crisis as something that simply doesn't apply to him or his high-status friends.
Section 3. The 7 Bizarre Chambers, a Multitude of Dreams.
Let's fast forward to the 5th or 6th month of their seclusion. The prince is feeling incredibly secure, so he decides to host a magnificent masked ball. But he doesn't just host it in a normal ballroom. Prospero's tastes were, let's say, peculiar. He pushed the boundaries of the beautiful, the wanton, the bizarre, and even the disgusting. He hosts this huge party across 7 distinct Gothic rooms. And get this, each room is uniquely designed, illuminated by a stained glass window that perfectly matches the prevailing color of that specific chamber. And the partygoers, the text describes them as a multitude of dreams stalking through the chambers. They writhed in and about, actually taking their vibrant hues directly from the lights of these colored rooms. It's incredibly surreal.
But there's a limit to all this revelry. As you move to the most westward chamber, things get deeply unsettling. This 7th room was closely shrouded in black velvet. But the window panes? They didn't match. Instead, they were scarlet, a deep, dark blood color. The ruddier light flowing through those blood-colored panes produced such a wild, terrifying look upon anyone who entered that very few maskers were bold enough to even set foot on the carpet. It acts as a constant, looming visual reminder of the exact thing they're trying so hard to ignore, the Red Death.
Section 4. The Chilling Ebony Clock, the Pulse of Mortality.
60. Standing directly within that dark, terrifying 7th apartment is an element that totally shatters their illusion of safety. And this number dictates the entire rhythm of the party. In that black velvet room stands a gigantic clock of ebony. And after the lapse of exactly 60 minutes, when the minute hand makes its complete circuit, the clock emits a sound.
It's a muffled peal that reaches all the way across the 7 rooms, forcing the wild revelry to an uneasy, grinding halt.
The physical reaction of these partygoers is just undeniable. When that peculiar, tremulous sound strikes, instantly all is still. There is a brief disconcert. The musicians stop. The dancers literally freeze in absolute stillness. But as soon as the echo ceases, a light, nervous laughter pervades the assembly. The musicians sort of smile at their own nerves, promising each other they won't freeze next time. But of course, 60 minutes later, the exact same tremulousness happens all over again. It is a mandatory hourly reminder of passing time, a pulse of mortality that they desperately try to laugh away.
Section 5. Arrival of the Phantom, the uninvited guest.
So the revel whirls on until midnight strikes, and a new, terrifying figure suddenly appears. In a party literally filled with the bizarre, this intruder goes way too far. Shrouded from head to foot in the habiliments of the grave, the mask he wears perfectly resembles the stiffened countenance of a corpse. But worst of all, the mummer has gone so far as to assume the type of the Red Death itself. His clothes and mask are actually dabbled in blood. A murmur naturally arises in the crowd. It starts as surprise, morphs into terror, and finally settles into pure disgust as this spectral image casually walks right among the living.
Who dares thus to make mockery of our woes? Prince Prospero's brow reddens with absolute rage when he sees this. He screams this demand, wanting the figure unmasked and hanged at sunrise. Prospero is furious because he thinks this is a cruel prank, an insult to the very tragedy he locked himself away to avoid in the first place. Even now, he still firmly believes he is in total control.
But as we're about to see, control is a total illusion. Despite the prince's furious orders, no one actually dares to seize the guest. Unimpeded, the figure slowly walks through the colored rooms. Maddened by his own cowardice, Prospero grabs a dagger and chases after him. Just as they reach the extremity of that terrifying black velvet apartment, the figure suddenly turns and confronts the prince. A sharp cry rings out, the dagger drops to the floor, and upon it instantly falls Prince Prospero, dead. The illusion of his power is shattered in an absolute instant.
Section 6. The inevitable end, untenanted by any tangible form.
With the prince dead on the floor, the remaining revelers finally summon the courage to rush into the black apartment. But as they violently grab the intruder, a horrifying truth is revealed. They seize the figure, only to find the grave cerements and the corpse-like mask completely untenanted by any tangible form. There's no prankster. There is literally no human being inside the costume. The presence of the Red Death is finally, unavoidably acknowledged. It had bypassed their iron gates and their lofty walls as if they weren't even there. And now, one by one, the revelers drop dead in the blood-bedewed halls.
The life of the ebony clock goes out. The flames illuminating the colored glass expire. We are left with this devastating final thought to really let the absolute dread sink in. And darkness and decay and the Red Death held illimitable dominion over all. Control, as it turns out, was never an option.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative question. It's really easy for us to judge Prince Prospero for his extreme arrogance, but human nature often drives all of us to ignore what scares us, right? So what walls do you build to ignore inevitable truths? No matter how much wealth, distraction, or control we think we possess, some forces simply cannot be locked out. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive. Until next time, keep questioning the world around you.